Welcome back. This is Gender Discourse, and today we are talking about female foeticide still being such a huge problem in our country. So, well, folks, if you still have a question or a point of view on this, kindly pick up your phone and call us at 1-800-115314 or 2303-5420. Now, coming to you, Reva, we know that, in recent times, we have seen a lot of rape cases being reported and whatnot. So, which clearly means that safety and security of women is a huge issue in our country. Now, for people who can't really give that kind of protection to their daughters, they would obviously be scared to have them in the first place. So don't you think that this is something that needs to be looked at first?
I think it weighs heavily on the mind of parents when they have a girl child. We have heard in our country rapes of 6 months old, 1 year old, 2 year old, 3 year old children, and also being abused in schools. In Bangalore recently, there have been a spate of cases where little children in nursery schools have been abused by people who are running the schools. So in that situation, I think parents are very, very careful when they think about having a child, and then they want to be sure that we are not having a girl, we want to have a boy, so that the child will be safe at home and we can leave the child more or less comparatively safe compared to a girl. Then the rapes on the street, as the child goes up, she needs more and more protection. She needs almost the mother and father to be looking after her at all times. Now that many parents are not willing to have, don't have the time. They have a profession where they are not on the near the child at all times. So I think that also weighs heavily, protection weighs heavily, and that is also partly the reason why little girls are married off very young, because in the village and in the rural areas, they do not want to keep the child with them for long. That something happens, then the name of the family will be destroyed, the girl will not be married. So why not marry her of child marriage, early marriage? You know, this is what is also the reason why women are often exposed to all the evils, all the ills in society, just to sort of save them, but in a way you're not saving them. So I think that is also a reason we have to give a lot of careful thought to protection of women on streets, in institutions, from the school to the workplace.
Absolutely. I'll get to Rizwan's comment on this, but before that, we have a viewer. This is Ravi from Delhi. So, Ravi, welcome to the show. Ravi, can you hear me, please?
हाँ जी
जी
जी मेरे दो सवाल हैं
जी
एक ही चाइल्ड अब्यूज की कानूनी रूप से और मेडिकल रूप से डेफिनेशन क्या होगी और दूसरा सवाल है कि किसी भी कानूनी घटना को या अपराध को छुपाना संविधान का उल्लंघन नहीं होगा.
ओके, थैंक यू फॉर दोस क्वेश्चंस. रिजवान, आप चाहेंगे इसका जवाब देना?
Can you please repeat
what
he
said? Wanted what is the definition of sexual abuse for a child? I think that's what he wanted.
Child and sexual abuse.
Yes.
So this is completely a different, issue. With this, rather I would like to comment on what ma'am was saying actually just before this caller. About this safety and security issue, So it is actually a huge concern. We have seen in the past, and while we have been working with panchayats in rural areas also, in parts of Rajasthan, Uttar Pradesh, Delhi, Haryana, we have found people, talking about this safety issue. They are very scared of sending their daughters off to a school, off to market, and any other place. And secondly, another issue which they always talk about is dowry. The dowry, and the third one is two-child norm in panchayat. These are the concerns which you may commonly, find in rural areas. And another major concern that we have been, facing, in terms of, that is violence. Violence for bearing daughters, that is very important. We have to look at, because this kind of violence is basically, unseen and quiet.
That's right.
Most of the time, women are not even in a position to relate the reason for such violence happening with them. Because when they go to the Mahila counseling centers, they find, when they are counseled, then the fact comes out that the woman was actually living with 2 daughters, 3 daughters, or she was not able to bear a son. So this is a big concern for us, and we have to really look at this issue, other than, safety and security of.
Well, we have another viewer. This is Dr. Sunita from Delhi. So, Dr. Sunita, can you hear me, please?
Hello.
Yeah. Welcome to the show. Kindly go ahead.
Thank you so much. क्योंकि मैं दोनों जगह से वाकिफ हूँ तो मेरे हेलो
जी आप अपना टीवी का वॉल्यूम कम कीजिए प्लीज.
एक मिनट सॉरी जी जी मैंने कर दिया
जी
जी मैं अपना क्वेश्चन पूछना चाहती हूँ एक अनुभव शेयर करने के साथ. क्योंकि मैं गांव में पली बढ़ी फिर 10 सालों से अलग अलग शहरों में रही तो मैंने देखा कि महिलाओं के संदर्भ में बहुत अलग अलग स्थितियां हैं और द्वंदात्मक स्थितियां हैं. जैसे गांव की जो परिस्थितियां हैं, गरीबी है, भुखमरी है, अशिक्षा है, अज्ञानता है, जड़ता है, संकीर्णता है, उसके उस परिस्थितियों से जूझते हुए वो संघर्ष करती हैं. तो कभी वो जीत जाती हैं, कभी हार जाती हैं, कभी उन्हें मजबूरी में ऐसा करना होता है तो कभी वे स्वेच्छा से करती हैं क्योंकि उनको खिला पिला नहीं सकती. लेकिन शहरों में जब से मैं 10 साल से 10 अलग अलग शहरों में रही हूँ तो मैंने देखा कि शहरों में ये चीजें दूसरी तरह से हैं. मजबूरी नहीं है बल्कि स्वेच्छा से चुना गया निर्णय है. तो इन दोनों चीजों के लिए 2 अलग अलग कानून बनाए जाने चाहिए. क्योंकि सिर्फ कानून एक तरह का बना देना कि हाँ महिला के राइट के लिए कानून बनाया गया है वो वैल्यू नहीं रखता है. क्योंकि गांव की स्त्री किस परिस्थिति से जूझ रही है वो अलग परिस्थिति है. शहर की स्त्री के लिए वो
डॉक्टर सुनीता मैं समझ गई हूँ आप क्या कहना चाह रही हैं. थैंक यू सो मच फॉर ज्वाइनिंग अस. मैं चाहूंगी कि विजय लक्ष्मी
शी इज टॉकिंग अबाउट द डिस्टिंक्शन बिटवीन द अर्बन एंड रूरल एरियाज एंड ऑल्सो द women and the kind of compulsions that they live with. I think it's a very important point that she has raised here. As to whether the law also needs to be target specific in terms of which is the populace that it is addressing.
Right.
When it comes to the PCPNDT Act, there is a clause within the Act, if I remember, I think it's clause 24, and it says that the woman will be presumed innocent unless proven otherwise. But it does not say that the woman cannot be proven guilty. So it's true that these compulsions need to be taken into account. What are the compulsions under which the woman has made that particular so-called choice? Now here when we are looking at the rural area and what she said that there is so much of coercion against them, but also in the urban areas what she sees as a choice being made, it's actually social conditioning. There is also a certain amount of pressure, there is a certain amount of coercion here which seems to, people seem to miss that point that if a person is educated, the woman is, she's empowered in terms of economically empowered, she is still then going and doing sex selective abortion. What does it say about her? I'm not saying women are all passive. They could be active agents here and women can also commit violence. But here I think the decision that she's taking is because of the kind of pressures that are there. With these pressures may be open or they could be something that she continues to feel irrespective of them being openly, done against her. That there could be subtle forms of pressures. It could be about the status. The status of a woman, even in the urban sector, will go up if she has a son. In comparison, let's say, to the other sister-in-law. So the notions of having a son, I think, operate similarly within rural and urban areas. So I think the law there becomes very important. I think there was a question that a caller earlier raised about sexual abuse. Of course, naturally, it is within the definition of who is a child, within which the sexual abuse idea is there, and there is a prevention of sexual abuse of children, and there is, of course, the act, the POSCO, the whole act that is there. Then there is also there is the child rights activists here who have been very active in terms of looking at child sexual abuse. I think what Reva ma'am was trying to make a point here is how do we look at safety and security of young children and look at it from the point of view is why do we choose then not to have daughters. So I think there it becomes very important, very significant to look at the issue of sexual abuse. It also needs to be addressed. The other point that he had raised is that is it all right for somebody to know that a crime has been committed and still keep quiet about it. I think when it comes to violence against women, one of the things that has to be noted is that it is very difficult for women to break their silence on violence. Therefore, I think a number of years are built into the law itself that a woman may take some time to break that particular silence because the perpetrators are actually her own family members. Then she has to step out of the threshold of her house, and who is she going to make that complaint against? Her own family members. So therefore I think the law does provide you a certain protection in terms of time span when it comes to lodging a complaint. So it has to be remembered that it is not against constitutional rights per se. In that sense, when a woman breaks her silence and the violence happened maybe long back, even for example child sexual abuse when you were a child but you are an adult now, women can bring it up. I do not think that one is only looking for resolution within law. I think that is also something we need to keep in mind, that counseling should be a large part of the medical profession when it comes to, families coming and asking them for sex determination.
True.
I think doctors are the biggest interface when it comes to sex-selective abortion. They can play a negative role, but they can also play a majorly positive role. They can actually counsel, and if they are more gender sensitive and they are able to impart gender equality within the kind of understanding that is given around family planning, let's say, or around contraception use, let's say, that could be a major role also for doctors to play. I think doctors could be great ambassadors for daughters in India if they really want to play that role.
But the point is that those handful ones who are not, nothing is going to work
That's
with
true.
them.
That's
the
true.
problem. Well, we have another viewer. This is Nabu Kumar from West Bengal. So Nabu Kumar, if you're there with me, welcome to the show.
हैप्पी मकर संक्रांति मैडम लोग और शायद सभी को
जी
मैडम मैं शुरू से हूँ और कुछ मेरे दिमाग में आया है तो मेरा एक प्रपोजल मैं बोल रहा हूँ सजेशन नहीं सजेशन देने का मेरा हक नहीं है कि हम लोग जो शहर से जब गांव जाते हैं तो अगर गांव में हम लोग जैसे वो जुलूस होता है ना जैसे वो माहौल में क्या बोलता है पंचायती जो होता है वहाँ हम लोग तो इधर उधर घूमते रहते हैं अगर हम लोग वहाँ का जो आदमी लोग है जो जेंट्स लोग है जो हस्बैंड लोग है उन लोग का अगर मिलजुल करके हम लोग एक ऐसे करके हम लोग बोलेंगे कि घर का जो औरत है उनको हाथ पकड़ के बाहर मतलब उन लोग को दिखाए रास्ता दिखाए कि आप लोग ऐसे करके चलो गांव में ऐसा होता है तो शहर में ऐसा होता है फर्क उन लोग को अगर आंख में हम लोग क्या बोले उनका अगर ये नजरिए से हम लोग उन लोग को शिक्षा दे सके तो कुछ लेकिन मैडम सुधर आ सकता है तो लेकिन हम लोग जो है जेंट्स लोग है ये लोग का बहुत जिम्मेदारी आता है यहाँ मेरा ये मन में आया है देखिए आगे आप लोग चर्चा कर रहे हैं आप लोग तो बहुत ज्यादा जानते हैं आप लोग खुश रहिए धन्यवाद
Thank you very much for joining us. Yes, maybe it is time that the men need to lead the way now and show that yes, women empowerment is important. Not only that, first of all we need to save the girl child. True. Yeah, you can quickly complete what you were saying, Vijay.
Well, I think the larger issues are around bodily rights and integrity. They are around reproductive rights, but going beyond that to autonomy and decision making. And we need to look at the fact that even the schemes that are there for girl child protection, they need to be linked up, not with ideas of just giving you a cash transfer at the end of the day, but looking at how education can be upscaled to the extent that the girl is really seen as an equal individual. And the right to equality is a constitutional right.
True.
So for them to understand that none of this is about protection per se, which is a charitable act of the government, but because the government needs to protect the rights of the individuals to whom the constitution is committed to. So I think the around, basing it around constitutional guarantees is very important. Somewhere along the way, the discourse becomes one of protection. Ki beti bachao, as if the beti is a passive little thing and you need to protect. Nobody is protecting. And men also need not lead the way per se. They have to be part of this struggle to guarantee rights to individuals. And also around mobility and security, on the 16th of December, this last 16th of December, a group of women activists led by Jagori actually did a kind of a street survey. They went everywhere in Delhi in the nights and they were very eminent women. Indira Jaisingh was there, Camilla Philippos was there, and members of Jagori and concerned citizens, young women and men. And also what we did is we marched throughout Delhi and we tried to find out where are the lightings, what is happening in terms of bus services, what is happening in terms of women moving out and trying to get some kind of private transportation to move from one place to another. We found it was in a dismal state. And this report has been given to the Lieutenant Governor of Delhi. But the point is that responsibility and accountability from the government is lacking. And we need to look at it
We'll talk
clearly.
about this. I think that's a very important point that you've raised, Vijay Lakshmi. But right now we'll have to slip into yet another break. When we come back, we'll be taking this forward. So don't go away, as we are all going to see you after this short break. Welcome back. This is Gender Discourse, and today we are talking about female feticide in the wake of the Supreme Court statement that has come regarding Uttar Pradesh to look at these cases and solve them within 3 months. Okay, now Reva, when we talk of policymakers, they are also a part of the same social fabric that we are also fighting against. So sometimes if those people are insensitive, if they do not understand the nuances of what is really being, what is in these policies, even then we can't really have too much of a change happening. What do you have to say? Because you've been in that position, I would want you to.
I have this to say that first of all, for policymakers, for instance, now it is a new government. We can have certain policies which are under kind of given to the new trainees in government. For instance, there's an administrative training school, there's a police training school.
Right.
We can have certain courses, workshops which are compulsorily to be attended by them, and over there the sensitization courses can be started. And it should continue after every, say, 3 years, 5 years. There should be a process where you go into the in-service training, you take them back to the school, get them sensitized to the latest situation and bring them back. In that case, at least they will start changing their attitudes. So I think that is very important. Secondly, what I feel from the depth of my heart is that the qualities about a woman, what a woman has, what she brings to your family, as a child, as a young girl, as an older girl, as a daughter-in-law, and as a sister, the qualities of a woman must be also imbibed and given publicity, whether it is in school, whether elsewhere. Women are extremely strong. Let me tell you, in many ways, they're 100 times stronger than men.
Absolutely.
They can take much more pain, they can take much more rough treatment, and they still will not wilt under that pressure. They are very, very strong. They are multitaskers, and they are born biologically very strong because they have to give birth to children, multiple children, multiple pregnancies. So God has made them strong. This quality of a woman, the strength, the inner, outer strength, not just physical strength, because she doesn't have a physical strength. But after Mary Com, I should not say this also.
Right.
But I think what is important is to emphasize the qualities of women, how the family gains by having a girl child. Yes, by having a boy child also. But if there is a girl child, what are the additional beautiful features it brings to the family? I think this should also be publicized in some programs.
Absolutely. I think very well said. Well, we have another viewer with us. This is Basharat from Telangana. So, Basharat, are you there with me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, welcome to the show.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. I would like to put my view as there should be a strong defense for doctors who perform this sex selective tests, as you were saying, and PCPNDT Act should be made more tougher, according to me, and that deterrent should, it will stop on total these abortions, because they're the ones who perform these abortions. That's what I feel. And also I want to know from sociological perspective that is there a need of change of social psyche or criminal laws? Is this the better way to criminalize everything, or there is a need to have a social psyche change?
Thank you so much for the viewpoint. Very quick comment from Vijay Lakshmi.
I think when he's saying social psyche, that brings us to what Girl Count is doing. I think this one is leading Girls Count, which is a group of civil societies. I think they are working in two ways. One is that we counter patriarchy and do it through whatever has been discussed here: education, empowerment, employment, looking at changes and also implementing laws such as dowry, child sexual abuse, looking at safety and security. All of that falls within the ambit of patriarchy, countering patriarchy. The other is, of course, implementing the law, the PCPNDT Act, which is a very important. I think they have to go together. You can't really separate the two. They are two parallel, they are like the two parallel wheels of bringing in the girl child into the family. But I think one of the other very important points that needs to be built into this kind of, let's say, a solution or whatever you are calling it now, is to understand that implementers, bureaucrats, the judiciary, the legal system, they also need to be trained. They also need to be sensitized. I think there is an understanding that the expert discourse is no longer going to be touched, but I think the experts discourse really needs to be engaged with time and again. I think the largest roadblock still now, and I know that because one of the cases I am involved with is in the Delhi lower courts, the largest kind of obstacle comes from the judiciary. Irrespective of the Supreme Court having given very, very progressive judgments, the judiciary is extremely gender discriminatory. in many ways, and so are the lawyers, the advocates. So I think it's very important that there should be stringent kind of rules about this particular form of gender discrimination. I know the woman who's fighting the case, the complainant, not only she is being harassed at the court 4 years, even the witnesses, I am one of the witnesses, we are also being harassed. Cases are being moved against us. And then now, for a woman whose husband did not accept her daughters, now she's being forced in the custody case to bring her daughters into the court. So I think it's a whole law, and there is so much of marital counseling where the major emphasis is that you keep the marriage. But take a look at the forms of discrimination that women had faced, and this is exactly what Rizwan had pointed out earlier. The violence against women who have daughters or who have not given birth to sons, that is really something that is still not within the discourse of the bureaucrats, and the tendency is to always see it as women are misusing the laws. Any woman who is actively a litigant is seen as misusing the law. So I think we really need to look at the bureaucrats, the implementers, and sensitize them. Although the ministers, and so the Prime Minister has given a call.
Oh yes, he's given a call.
Yes. So I think why can't the bureaucrats also do the same and be more proactive with the missionary zeal, with what Reva and others before, with her when in her time they had shown. We don't see that anymore.
Right. So Rizwan, what do you say here? What do you think should be the road ahead?
See, government has already shown its commitment to this issue of sex selection. And there was a time when we were waiting for the cases to come to the court. Now today we have number of cases filed in Maharashtra, in Rajasthan, and few cases here and there in several states. So one thing that we need is a speedy trial of all these cases.
Absolutely.
Like Rajasthan has set up an example of by setting a fast track courts. Similarly, we should have fast track courts for the speedy trial of cases in all the states. That is one I can see. And we also need to, like Vijay Lakshmi ji said about orientation, sensitization of judiciary and legal experts and legal person. Very important. Because what is actually happening in absence of understanding of this case, and because of the casual attitude also, I will say, the cases are being acquitted actually. So those cases are not taken up to the stage of even the session court. Even at the level of trial court, the cases are being acquitted. So under the otherwise, how you will create a kind of deterrence for others to not to get into the business of sex selection. That is one. Secondly, I will say this issue of economically independence is very important. Women and girls needs to be made economically independent. This is what we have seen. When
because wherever women are economically independent, they are not really harassed.
At least they are. At least they can counter. They can raise their voice against such kind of violence and discrimination.
It may not be 100%, but at least they can fight.
But they can. They can, definitely they can. They have at least some space for themselves. And secondly, I will say, with this economic independence, right to housing is very important. This is something which we are now we have started talking about this issue of housing for women. Not just in the form of shelter, but at least they should have kind of that decision, and that power to stay.
I think that's a very important point. Probably I can have a complete discussion on an issue like that. I think that's something that you've really brought up. Very quick comment.
I'd just like to add a little bit to what he's saying.
Quickly.
It's very, very important that women have economic independence. If they are going to take a decision and retain the girl child, after knowing it's a girl child, they say we do not want an abortion. Then if it comes to breaking up of the marriage, they must have alimony. They must have independent support, child support.
Absolutely. Well, on that note, I'd like to say thank you to three of you for coming today and for talking about this burning issue one more time with me. Well, friends, sex selection at birth has to stop, period. There's no place for any ifs and buts anymore. If we are at all concerned about the abysmal male-female ratio in our country, then we got to stop. This long-drawn menace is now showing signs of damage. If this damage is not controlled soon, then the price we would have to pay would be too steep. For a country to progress in every quarter, the position of women needs to be strong, starting from their lives being spared even before they are born. No amount of progress in every which way equals to the position of the girl child. So at whatever level you can, do try and contribute in spreading the message of saving our daughters, or soon we would be a demented society whom the world would only laugh at. On that harsh note, it's a wrap of this discussion. Do join me next week for another debate on another gender issue. Till then, this is Lottie Alaric saying goodbye and pay good attention in saving your girl children.